Thank you for being here on With Misk podcast. Mike Cuenca.
Yeah.
Is that how you pronounce your last name?
That's how you pronounce it.
This is great. We just met a couple of minutes ago, and I have watched your film. I'll Be Around. And so I'm filming my indie feature, and called Reunion. And it's filmed by Jessica Gallant. She's our DP. And she said that I should talk with you, Mike, because she said that you work in a little bit similar way than me, but she has been also telling really cool stories about how you work. So I thought that it would be very inspiring to hear about your life, and especially how many films you have made. I've seen I'll Be Around, but the way you make your films, I would like to hear about that. How
I make them?
Yes.
The entire process from start to finish?
Yeah, it's really inspiring. That was over 3 hours. I watched what's the cut called that I watched?
The I'll Be Around cut that you watched. That's the director's cut, which now is the only cut. And it's technically 2 features, 70 minutes long each. And since the movie's based around musicians, we did like a side A and a side B, like a record. So the first flick is 70 minutes. The second one is another 70, but you have an intermission in between. So the way that it's going to be streaming and all that, it's all together. So you do have the intermission, but you have the option to pause it yourself.
Yeah.
I would prefer it if it was 2 separate, like Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2, kind of like that. So it really is, the second side really is a B side, because the first part, the tone is very, very much like Slacker as you watch. You're following a group of characters. Some person walks away, the camera follows them. They meet up with someone else. But unlike Slacker, we're coming back to the same characters, and the whole movie is a domino effect. There's a quote at the beginning of the movie by one of the characters that says, "We all play our parts." Eve Valentine, musician. Like you're in a band, you all play your parts, right? But it's talking about just life in general, how we all affect each other's eventual outcome without even realizing it. It could be a very minuscule thing. Like we have a character that knocks over a trash can that has a box full of merchandise, t-shirts. This other character gets beer on them and they need a new shirt, right? And so this other character who's always having a problem talking to people for the first time sees that box with merchandise on the ground, grabs a shirt, and now starts a conversation with that person.
Yeah.
So that's the whole idea. So the first side sets everything up. The B side is the repercussions.
Yeah, it's really impressive. And where is this out? When is it out? How can people watch it?
We're actually going to be screening it. I work for the American Cinematheque, and we're going to be screening it August 27th at the Los Feliz 3 Theater at 4 p.m. That's a Saturday. So people can actually watch it with us, and Jessica will be there. Schedule permitting, if she's not working on another project to do it, she's going to be part of the Q&A. So it's going to be really fun. And you can pretty much watch it on Amazon, Tubi. Just type in on Google, I'll Be Around streaming, and you'll be able to see it.
Is it already out on streaming?
I believe this version is now out everywhere. And I fought really hard to take the other version down, because the other version was just 2 hours, which, most people are like, that's already long enough. But it was missing so much flavor, and it felt a little hollow. And I feel like the points that we were trying to fully make, which are very existential, as you see towards the end, it was lacking. It was missing that stuff. So I'm like, no, I want to make the definitive version. And there have been several people that have seen almost every cut of that. And when I had like a really, really small public screening at a coffee shop around this time last year of this version, the new version. And some people were very affected by it and moved, which was not the response the first time. So I think this is the essential one. And like I said, now the only one.
Yeah. So did you shoot more?
Oh, no. Yeah.
You just did a new cut.
Yeah, I just did a new cut.
Yeah, you said that you had to fought hard to get the previous one out.
Well, the other one is just like the distributor wanted it 2 hours, and everyone wanted it 2 hours. And some people were going like, this should be 90 minutes. I'm like, well, it's not a zany comedy. And it's Dazed and Confused is an influence on it, but it's not that kind of movie. It's much more angst ridden. And it's like I said, we're trying to tell this whole domino effect story. And we have dozens and dozens of characters, also inspired by Robert Altman's Nashville, which has a cast of like 29 characters. But that's what we wanted to make, and we were being a little stubborn about it and sticking to our guns, because I'm like, that's what we wanted to do. So what was the point of making this if we can't execute it the way that we intended to?
Yes. That's a huge film, like a 3 hour. What's the length? 3 hours?
It's 2 hours and 20 minutes, 70 and 70.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. So that long indie film, how did it all start? Because it's inspiring and it's huge.
Do you really want me to go deep into how that started? Because it's a lot of it's a lot of like self-therapy.
I would like to, because it was inspiring and like, okay, so you don't know much about me, but I'm originally from Finland and I've been here for 7 years in LA. I'm here for acting, but I'm also a beginning filmmaker. I have done some web series and one Finnish feature film. And it was a found footage horror and it got released. It's on Tubi and Amazon and all that.
What's the name of that?
Insanity.
Insanity.
Yes. You can probably easily find it if you type my name and Insanity. So that was my learning process. I hadn't made one, but I wanted to start learning filmmaking by making a feature film.
Right.
Because then you can release it. And now I'm making my second film and I'm really learning. So I would like to hear the whole thing because your film was inspiring. It looked good. I would like to hear the story because there was certain weird ease in it. Because it seemed like that you had all the time in the world. You had so many locations, you had bands, you had record store, you have so many characters. So there was certain kind of really inspiring ease. But I don't know if it happened behind the scenes, if it was easy behind the scenes. So yes, I would love to hear the whole story.
Well, when it comes to all those, I mean, the thing is, like, I hadn't made a feature since By the Wayside, which was in 2012. And that movie was a response to me losing very close financing on what was supposed to be my second feature, which I still haven't been able to make this movie. And I don't want to make it DIY because I don't want to mess it up. But we made this movie By the Wayside, which was basically my friends and I, which they're recurrent cast members. My close friends and I watched Cassavetes' Husband or Husbands, and I'm a big Cassavetes fan. It's one of the movies of his I hadn't seen, and we didn't really like respond well to it. And like we loved it. We loved the idea. We thought the movie was too long. But we're like, we should do something like this. And it's just, these best friends and their husbands, and they leave their wives for the weekend or whatever, and they get into a bunch of debauchery, right? So I was like, we should make a movie like that, and let's just do it and actually not have a script. So we have, we just had a basic premise, and I'm in it because it would have been easier to direct. And Jessica's really good at just following characters really well when they improvise. So I was like, okay, or actors really well when they improvise. So we did this thing without a script, just a basic premise. The lead actor of my first flick, Jerry Powell, Joey Halter, him and I are roommates, and we can't pay the rent. That's it. So we would shoot, and I would go and edit, and then I would start coming up with a storyline. And then I would send that to all the talent, the actors, and I kept calling other people, hey, you want to be in this? You want to be in this?
What kind of time frame? Once a month?
No, we're talking about, we shot this, well, it was within a 2-week time frame, but it took us, or a week and a half time frame, and it took us 7 days to shoot it.
So you shot a day, then you edited, and then you came back. Yeah.
Or even that night, we would shoot all day in the morning, and then I'd go late afternoon into night just cutting it, and I'm like, okay, I know where we should go. And then I would send an outline of what we should say, what we should do, where the story should go to all the actors. And then that would probably be like 2 days in a row. Then I would have 3 days off. But we did it, like I said, in 7 days.
Yeah.
And it was really fun. It was like a total palate cleanser. But, we complained about Husbands being too long. The original cut of By the Wayside was 2.5 hours long, which is insane. And I had possibly what was like the greatest night of my life when we premiered my prior feature, the first feature, Jerry Powell, at the Downtown Independent Theater. And it was like people were standing, everyone was laughing at every joke. I couldn't believe like how well it played. And then we had Wayside screening, that long cut, maybe 5 months after that at the same theater. And that was the worst experience of my life. And I was just slinking in my chair. No one was laughing. No one was like feeling anything in any scenes. And it was like the AC also wasn't working. So I'm just sweating in my seat and going like, oh my God, why do we make this? Which led me into more depression. And I didn't make a movie for, what was that, 6 years? I was like, F this, I'm not doing this anymore.
What did you do?
I just started working on my band. already had a band.
Please tell me about your band. Also.
So that band went through a million incarnations, but we were called Dignitary eventually. And I was just like, I'm just going to concentrate on music because I can't do this stuff anymore, and it's really tough. And years prior to that, because I've been working with Jessica since like 2008, so 14 years.
Wow.
So quite a long time, right? And I met her because I had put an ad out on Craigslist. I think it was Craigslist, and I was looking for a cinematographer. I didn't know anything about filmmaking, really. I still don't know anything about filmmaking, but I didn't really know anything. I had like zero experience. I made a few, shorts on my camcorder when I was a teenager, but I was like, I'm going to make this movie. And part of it was a little bit punk rock oriented. So I put an ad out that this is punk rock movie. Jessica replies and she goes, hey,
because she has done punk. Yeah.
And she's like, I grew up in the punk scene, and I dye my hair with Manic Panic still, and et cetera, et cetera. And she kind of gave me, she's like, I'm working on this death rock documentary right now. It's called This Is Drop Dead. And I was like, this is perfect. And she pretty much, like the rest of the cast in that movie, the punk rock characters in that movie, we kind of became a family. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do a spinoff. Mind you, this was supposed to be my first feature film. I never finished it. I don't think it's very good.
Do you still have the tapes?
I still have the footage, and I'm actually going and like in the I'll go into that in a second.
Yeah.
But I've been my plan is to recut it as a short. And like I said, I have some ideas. But anyway, the side characters, punk characters, were so fun in the movie, and they kind of stole the show that I started just writing a random episode, like a pilot episode with all those characters. And there's a lot of them. There's like 14 or something like that. So I was like, the movie was called Scenes from Oblivion. And I'm like, this is perfect. I'm going to do this pilot episode. Everyone's down to do it. Jessica's down to shoot it. And it's going to be called Oblivion. She actually turned out to be unavailable. So I met someone else that shot it, Anastasia Shepard. So she shot the pilot. I did some camera work, and then Jessica did some pickups. I thought it was really cool, but I was like, you know what? We should do two, because I'm crazy. I was like, we should do 2 more episodes to really show what this show can be, the potential. And it cuts from character to character, and each one's into their own like subculture or whatever of punk rock. So we did 3 episodes, and I went to go pitch that thing. Got up to MTV to pitch it. We got rejected. Initially, they dug it because I was like, it's Seinfeld, but with punks meets Looney Tunes. Yeah. And everyone's like, oh, this is great. And then I started talking about it, and they're like, you know what? If you would have presented this idea 10 years ago, we would have greenlit it, because kids nowadays don't know what this stuff is. And I was like, are you kidding me? 10 years ago, I was a kid. I couldn't have done this thing, we didn't have the cameras for that, digital cameras to be able to pull this off. So, I was like, F this. We're having so much fun doing this, even though most people can't even watch the show because it was a web series. They couldn't load it because streaming was not a thing. It would take people like 3-4 hours to load like 5 minutes of footage. It was ridiculous. But we did start getting a cult following with it. And I was like, you know what? Let's just do this for fun. So we ended up doing about 17 half-hour long episodes. Wow. And then I did the movie Jerry. And then Wayside, and after getting rejected, and not getting anything done with this stuff, and it's, really taxing them, as to make a feature. Yeah. That I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. So I did a few music videos. I did a music video for my band, for Dignitary, for a friend's band. I had a cool idea. I was like, I'm going to connect all these music videos. If you watch them all together, it's going to be a movie. Yeah. Never really finished that, but I did 3 videos that kind of connect, One starts when the other one ends. So that was it. And I went through this crazy period of deep depression. I'm talking about maybe 2015 or something like that. I could not get out of that rut. And that's a very long story, but I went through a huge ordeal. Yeah.
How does it look? You're sleeping every day, the whole day? Or
I'm not much of a sleeper. Yeah. Okay. So when depression comes, I don't sleep at all. I just board myself up and just start working on music, whatever. Everyone does their own thing, but I don't sleep much to begin with. Yeah. But I started just the way out of that, or the distraction was the band, and I had, like I said, several incarnations in the band, and this all culminated with another friend's band called Electric West. I was like, we should go tour the East Coast and actually play New York, the 5 boroughs. So I booked this whole event. Yeah. And I just got it out of a breakup and all this stuff, So I'm like, I'm going to go do that. And when I was out there, I was like, man, I wish there was actually a movie that would capture how much it sucks to be a nobody musician, and how much it sucks to book shows, because you have these people that are bookers, right? And that's their title. But when you go with them and you're like, hey, I'm a local band, blah, blah, they go, how many followers do you have online? Because that, that really matters.
Yeah, I get it.
Right. So it's like this and that. So you then they're like, okay, you have to reach out to other bands that are going to play the bill. Those bands don't want to be the opener. So you go through this whole thing. You spent it becomes another job. You spend so much time trying to set up the show. The booker doesn't help at all. And then next thing you know, you're the opener of your own show that you spent 3 months trying to book. And I was like, Jesus Christ.
And what's the genre? Punk?
We were post-punk, a little bit goth. We started off as a gothic Western band. Yeah. More like folk acoustic. And then that started morphing into what we became, which was a little bit, dancey at times. Darker pop as a thing I call it.
Darker pop. I like that.
Dark pop. Yeah, whatever,
What do you do in the band?
A main songwriter. And in that band, I used to play and sing, and then eventually just dropped the guitar and then just fronted like I used to when I was a teenager.
Oh, nice. Yeah, so you have the promoter. You were trying to book the boroughs.
It sucked, but that was cool. It was great going to New York and all this and that.
And you're not getting any money, or
no, you get paid in memories.
Yes.
So, I don't want to get too deep into all that stuff, but I met someone out there.
Well, I would like to pursue that dream too.
Which dream?
Well, I don't think I will do it anymore at this age, but it all started for me playing punk when I was 12 years old, and I still play guitar. And
that's awesome.
We play some covers in the Finnish events.
Yeah.
So I play, but that was the original dream, to become a rock star. And then I drifted into acting, and that's what I'm concentrating on now.
See,
so I really, you have lived part of my dream.
Well, like the whole punk aesthetic, where you're like, I'm not a classically trained musician. I'm just gonna pick up an instrument. I think this sounds cool, and you're just getting whatever aggression or feelings out, through your music. I mean that having that background and being very much like, I don't want to say like anti-mainstream because I'm not, but I'm just like. It's a very DIY mentality, and that helped push me to just make this stuff without any money. And be like, F it. Like, you don't need to follow all these rules. You don't need all this fancy stuff. And it's just like, I mean, you do, but in a sense, it's like that shouldn't withhold you from creating something.
Yeah, I can relate to that from the band stuff when we had a band in Finland and we tried to get gigs and all that.
Did you tour?
I wouldn't. No, No, there was bands and we had gigs, but I wouldn't say that we toured. No, because when I turned 18, the theater came to my life, and I noticed that the acting will work better for me.
Yeah,
but there was some bands that could have been something if there was a manager, or we would have been more organized. But we all were teenagers.
You always have to have that person that's like the most organized individual.
Yes, And then we had this really cool cover band, but there was no songwriter. But it was just 3 people, and I felt that we played songs by a Finnish band called CMX. The Finnish audience will know that. And there was 3 people, and I think we were starting to get a little bit of a following, or at least people liked when we were playing.
Right, yeah.
But that band was missing that there should have been one songwriter, that we would have started playing our own songs. But I think I was just thinking about it a couple of months ago, a little bit melancholically, that if we had own songs, that could have become something. Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I started to do acting when I was 18, but I still...
What propelled you to go into acting, really?
The same people who I was with in bands, they were connected to theater.
Okay.
And I noticed that it was easier for me to act instead of just... I don't really sing, so I mainly play guitar. So I noticed that with the guitar, I'm tied to the instrument, but when I'm acting, I can actually be free and do whatever I want. Because I'm not good enough a singer to be a lead singer. So I was always just a guitar player.
Yeah.
So the acting was more easier for me. And there was some local theater plays. And then I started to pursue my dream and moved to the capital city of Finland, and eventually to Miami, the theater school. And now I am in Hollywood trying to make it.
Oh, all right.
But I just bought a new amp.
Yeah.
Fender 100 GTX.
So you're still playing, just like at home?
Yeah. And we play some covers. Well, I play in improv shows. When we have improv theater shows, I usually use guitar and someone sings or does some freestyle, and we have some cover gigs. I have a couple of songs in Spotify, a couple of punk songs.
Oh, cool! I want to check those out.
Yeah, couple of music videos, and I recorded background for a new song. I just need to do the singing. It's like Rage Against the Machine type thing in Finnish.
That's interesting.
So I still release punk music.
Right on.
Every year. Yeah. One song per year.
See, that's cool though. You know, it's like it's to me, it's like it's such a part of me that even though like I most likely never be in a band again, it's like I can't stop working on music. And even if I don't put it out, just recording it for myself.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. Like, are you in a band now? No? What's going on with that dream?
I am not. More like a nightmare. No, I'm not in a band anymore. But I was always joking around that I wanted to do this project called Just Mike, where, you know, I'm like, I play every instrument, and it's just like I just thought it would be funny, and like the songs would be more like 80s, like hard rock.
Well, my punk thing is pretty much like that, but I have someone else playing drums. Yeah. It's better that way.
Well, of course, you know. Yeah. So like I just started. I was like, I'm gonna release 12. This is like in the last 3 months. I was like, I'm gonna do like 12 songs. We're gonna record them under Just Mike, just make them up on the spot and do that. So that's what I've been doing. Except instead of doing 12, I did like close to 30. And then I was like, what am I doing working on this thing? And I got them all down. I'm not like any sort of music producer. So like they're not mixed, they're not mastered. And I'm like, I don't have the money to go through that. And I don't want to go through all that. It's too much work. And it's distracting me from other things. So now my attention span went to something else.
But you should finish those and release at least half of them.
I should. I mean, I could just put them out in demo form like that. But if I do that, then I have like snobbier friends who are like, hey, what it was, you know, come on, do a good job on these things. And I'm like, I don't want to spend that much time on that because, you know.
But you have spent lots of time.
I know. I got to do it. And I went back like a couple of days ago and actually listened to those songs, and I was like, hey man, these are kind of cool. I dig them, you know?
Yeah, we need to put them out.
I think there's 2 on Spotify that I threw up. I think, you know.
What's the name? Just Mike?
Just Mike, and it probably should show up under my full name, or my name, I mean.
Yes.
So anyway, what's it called? So like obviously like being in bands and all that is all reflected in I'll Be Around. So I had this crazy breakdown when I was in New York, which is echoed in the movie. Eve Valentine, the singer, that's like, she's a very popular musician in the movie, and she's someone that didn't really want this position. Like people really admire her. She had a great first album, except she can't follow it up because she doesn't have anything to say or create. So she's going through her own mental breakdown. But there's a scene in the movie that's very personal to me where she like has a breakdown in the bathroom and she's crying and falls to the floor. And that happened to me when I was in New York during that tour. So
that tour of 5 boroughs. Yeah. You had a breakdown.
It was just a lot of pent up stuff, and it wasn't like I was in a bad mood or anything. I was just like, something just happened where I started choking up when I was talking. I ran to the bathroom and I'm like, shut myself in a stall, and I just had a breakdown. And it was just like, I cried these burning hot tears. I just got all this like pent up stuff that it was bottling up inside of me for several years. And it's not that like I was really balling it up, because I'm very vocal about how I feel about things. But anyway, so it's like, it was just like all these, again, you know, echoing, it's echoed in the movie, a bunch of domino effects, right?
Yeah.
So I ended up meeting someone out there. She ended up flying out here. We ended up doing some drugs, a mix of drugs that I shouldn't have mixed up, because I can't have anything that's like an upper. Like I'm a very psychedelic oriented person.
Yes.
But I can't have anything that's like an upper. It just does not work for me. I just completely drop.
You drop.
I drop. I sit still. I don't talk. I can't move. And if I talk, I get stuck in a loop, repeating the same thing over and over.
Wow.
So I got on this loop and I kept going, how the hell did I get here? How did this happen? And I just kept going crazy in circles, trying to figure out how I got here. I'm like, well, this thing happened to lead to this, and da-da-da-da-da-da. So I was already having this domino effect thing in my mind. And a couple of days after this, I watched with some friends movies that I love, you know, and they hadn't seen them. I rewatched Slacker, as I brought up, and that maybe the next day I watched Nashville.
Yeah.
The Robert Altman movie. And in that movie's like it's 5 days at a country music festival, right? And you're following, like I said, dozens and dozens of characters.
Yeah.
And I was like, we should do our version of this, but with a post-punk scene or alternative rock scene, make it one day follow a plethora of characters do it like Slacker, except we bring back the characters and we have it be a domino effect. Can we pull this off? Can we do this? And I talked to my really good friend Dan Roje, who's in everything I've made as an actor, and we had been working on a script already that I'm very proud of, and we're still trying to get financed, but we have a million ideas. And I brought this up, and he goes, "I'm down," and I'm like, "Cool, let's use your." He has a specific way, a specific outlook on life that I tend to relate to, and I'm like, let's mix some of my band experience. And he's a musician.
What's
as well.
the outlook?
It's like, it's like we're very neurotic in the sense that it's like, do things happen for a reason? You know,
do they?
Are you a fatalist? So that's like the theme of I'll Be Around.
Yes.
And at the same time, I'm like, no, you can't just be like, you're not just gonna get a call for an audition, right?
Yeah.
Randomly. No one's just going to call you randomly. You have to go and put yourself out there so people know you exist. So therefore, you can't just let things, they're not going to just fall into your lap. So you have to like push. But if they happen for a reason, what happens if you don't push? You know? So it's kind of like that. There's a common line throughout I'll Be Around where a character goes, it is what it is. And then another character goes, unless it's not.
Yeah.
So that's like several different pairs of characters say that in the movie.
Yeah.
And, it's like you make do with what you have, but maybe, your nihilism can sway you from that, or your optimism can, plunge you forward or whatever, So that's encompassing all those things that I talked about. That's how I'll Be Around started getting, becoming a reality.
Yes.
So when we're working on that script, we were going to keep it like Slacker. We
Just you two.
Yeah. We weren't going to bring back the people at all. And then we're like, we really like these characters. Wouldn't it be cool if we brought this character and then this character is a hopeless romantic meets the hopeful romantic? We started, everything started gelling. And even before that, I think it was maybe like a year before we even shot that I started casting it. I mean, casting took a minute because I actually ended up using a lot of real life musicians that aren't actors that kind of have onstage charisma, or that do have onstage charisma because they're musicians and they're on stage and they're kind of becoming a person. They have a persona on stage, right?
It feels like that it was cast that you are in that scene and you just cast people who you spend your time with. Yeah,
some of them were, and even if they don't have like a speaking part, I do have like cameos from musicians that were in bands that I would play on a bill on,
Yes.
That, I became friendly with throughout the years and all that. So that was the genesis. And we're like, we tried to pitch it to different like indie studios. Again, I've never had financing for anything I've ever done. I've never made a penny off anything I've ever made. It's all just a labor of love. It's therapeutic, and it's also sucks.
Yeah, I know how it is.
Yeah. So, people were turning us down left and right.
Oh, sorry. What did you have when you were pitching? PDFs or what?
We had a PDF. I made sort of like, like a mood board.
Yeah.
I had an EPK. I had showing the different themes.
Can you tell how specific the EPK was?
I mean, my memory's so hazy, but I tend to have this for every other project, project that I work on anyway. But it's just like, it was just like a brief introduction. You turn the page, it's a digital page, but you turn the page or you click next, and it would discuss the themes, the demographic, the people that would actually want to watch this thing, which for a demographic, it's like, it's not just musicians. It's not just struggling musicians. It could apply to any struggling artist, because some of these characters, like I said, they're very frustrated. They've gone through these issues with these bookers. They've gone through all this stuff. They spent like 10, 15 years and, investing all this money into their possible career as a musician. And now, can you really even be a career musician?
Oh yeah. I need to interrupt you. What do you think is the age of the characters? Because they're not in their 20s anymore.
Those characters are in their 30s, or into like early to late 30s. Some are in their early 40s.
Yeah, because it's the last moments before you start having kids, if you're ever gonna do that.
The last moment before you start having kids, and you start having, again, those breakdowns, like, what the am I doing with my life?
Yeah.
And also, and it's like, I did read I try not to read reviews for my stuff. Like, I really don't care. But one of them snuck its way towards me, and it was something about like, the person was like, this is a very nihilistic movie. And I'm like, did you watch the same movie? Because it's not nihilistic. It is called I'll Be Around. No matter what, these people, like you said, they're in their mid 30s, late 30s. They're not married. They don't have any children. They don't have these things bogging them down. They're kind of all working like service industry jobs, so they can have the time to pursue the things that they want to pursue. Some of the musicians in the movie don't care to have success. They just are living every day, one day at a time, They're living in the moment. Some people are like struggling, like the Cooper character. He's been struggling since he was a teenager, and he's an alcoholic now. Maybe that has played into why he's not successful.
Yeah.
You have the person that doesn't want it, you know? You have the people that are really like total snobs that don't care. And they're
Do you
full of
think it
themselves,
starts to, sorry.
Yeah.
Do you think it gets different with age? Because that's the dream when you move to LA.
Totally. Well, you told me too. You came out here to act.
Yeah.
You know, and then you hit a certain point, and you're like, well, what else am I going to be doing? Hence the title of that movie. I'll be around. They're still going to be doing what they're doing. Because what the hell else are they going to do? You know. So it comes down to that. Even with age, yeah, definitely, you start becoming more discouraged. Obviously. I mean, it happened to me where I had that 6-year gap.
Yeah.
And you know, once I was like, I'm gonna do I'll Be Around. And it was like, I'm really gonna push myself to do this, because it's like I still say that, like, I'm not gonna make movies anymore. Right now I'm working on 3 movies. That's how insane I am. But it's like, because like, again, going back to that, what else am I gonna do? Not do it? But I have to do it, because these ideas are in my mind, and I have to get them out there. Otherwise I can't sleep at night.
I know.
But yeah, like
so you were talking about the press kit. So you had actually demographics and all that.
Yeah,
which is that's pretty organized.
You gotta. I mean, they're gonna wonder like who's gonna watch this.
Yeah.
You know, when you make a genre movie, you make a horror picture. That's easy. There's like already like a built-in fan base.
Yeah.
But for this, it sucks because you know, honestly, most rock related content out there. You know, and I don't like really using that word content, but like, you know, TV shows, movies, any rock related stuff is so cheesy and so off, or done in a very nihilistic, fun way. And that's cool. That's rad. I love Rock and Roll High School. I think it's great. I love Detroit Rock City. Those are really fun movies. But when you try to do something a little bit more serious, it's just so comical and cartoonish. I mean, I did that with Oblivion, you know, it's a really cartoonish show. It's melodramatic, but it's cartoonish.
Is like, Oblivion is the show that you did earlier? Yeah. Is it still watchable somewhere?
So it was all offline.
Yes.
I mean, because it's really rough, you know? So it's like, some of it's like questionable, you know? And also a lot of the humor doesn't really land with newer generations.
But it tells about that time.
Yeah, right. So like what I ended up doing recently, this is in the last month, I started re-releasing them on Vimeo, and I broke them down into 3-episode seasons. Because every 3 episodes we have, I mean, it's a long running storyline. It's very tightly plotted. You can't just randomly watch episode 7 and be like, okay, I'm going to figure out what's going on. You're going to be totally lost. Yeah. Because it's really complex. So I started actually re-releasing them. And in 2010, we actually
How could I find them if I wanted to watch them now?
You can type in Oblivion, the series, on Google, or just type Oblivion Vimeo. Type in my name, Mike Cuenca, Oblivion, and it should show up. They're all on Vimeo.
Yeah. Why Vimeo?
Vimeo because, I have most of my stuff on there anyway. Some of it's available to watch for free. The music videos that I've done. I think Jerry Powell's on there to watch for free, because a lot of the music that's on there, we didn't clear the licensing for, and I'm not trying to make money off of this. And I'm like, I don't really have the time to go in there and get friends to write similar music, which I've done for features. Yeah. I'll Be Around. I did most of the original songs. You know, some were donated by bands that I know. And then Dan Broje, my co-writer, who's, like I said, a songwriter as well, he wrote some of the music as well. Yeah. So that we took our time on. I'm not going to do that for Oblivion because it's just a lot of work, and I don't even think people care that much about it. Yeah. But check this out. So we did like all those episodes that we did, right? We had about like 7 or so that were never released. I never put them online. Yeah. A lot of them I hadn't even edited. I hadn't even looked at this footage in like 12 years. So that's what I've been doing. That's what I'm currently doing. I'm watching all this footage that we shot nonstop with Jessica for X amount of time. And I forgot about this. I forgot all the stuff that we shot, which is fun now for me because I have no attachment to these scenes. Yeah. I'm not married to anything. So now I can objectively come in and start editing these episodes and fine tuning them in a way that seems really fresh, shiny, and new to me, you know? So I'm jumping all around. I remember.
No, this is great.
But anyway,
it's perfect.
But anyway, and all my stuff too. And the reason for this too is that all my stuff is a shared universe. You know.
I didn't know that. That's good.
I've been doing that since like day one, especially when I was spinning off the Oblivion characters from scenes from Oblivion into their own show. Yeah. So there's always a reference to something. You know, and I have tying into like what you said about I'll Be Around, which is a bunch of locations, right? Yeah. To get away with geography or to get away with the lack of permits, they are all fictional towns where the movies take place. Because I can get away with, like, if you know the geography of LA, you're like, that venue is not next to that coffee shop. That's at least like a 30-minute drive. But the characters come out of that venue, they go in next door to the coffee shop. So I can get away with things like that. And I think I think it's a lot more fun. And I was also inspired by John Hughes. He has Shermer, Illinois, where his movies take place. That Shermer, Illinois does not exist.
Okay.
You know?
Where in LA would that happen? Where because the scene looks so real, and I haven't been in that scene.
Yeah.
I've gone to Rainbow many times, but that's a cool place, but it's a museum.
Oh, yeah.
It's something what happened in the 80s.
Yeah.
So does that scene exist somewhere, or did it for I'll Be Around? Is it Silver Lake, Echo Park?
It's everywhere. It's all over. We shot some stuff like in downtown. We shot stuff in Highland Park, Echo Park, Silver Lake, Los Feliz, like everywhere. You know?
Those kind of people exist. I believe you, but I don't see them. I go to other places.
Exactly. Maybe they do. Maybe they don't. I don't know. I'm a little detached from it, you know,
because it seems like a really believable scene.
And that's the thing too. When we do jump into that movie, it's like it is a pre-existing scene. So when you're coming into it,
and I feel that
as a moviegoer,
it's really good.
I'm a little like, but that's on purpose. We wanted because
it makes me feel that I want to go there. I want to go to. Is it Satellite in Silver Lake? Where is this?
See, that's good. Yeah, we have fictional venues. Like one of the main venues in the movie is called the Mirror.
Yes,
it's actually a composite of 3 different venues in Los Angeles. You know, so
do you want to tell which one?
No way, man.
Okay, great.
But anyway, like that movie, it's like you're supposed to feel a little lost, and that's kind of what it's like to move to a new town, which I ended up doing that at one point. I moved to Atlanta, and there was this pre-existing power pop punk scene.
Yeah.
And everyone knew each other, and I had to figure out who's related to who's dated who's in whose band. Wait, they're in a band together, but they're also in this band. And that's how it feels when you first watch I'll Be Around, which is a movie that we intentionally created for you to revisit several times. We really want you to come back in and start seeing how we really made every scene count. Because a lot of people go like, you could drop this and you can drop. I'm like, no, we cannot. There's a reason that it's in there. We really worked. We did about like 20 drafts of I'll Be Around. That's part of the reason too that we didn't go out and shoot it immediately. I wasn't happy with it, and then we're like, we're making this too complex. We had like a murder subplot in there at one point. We're like, we gotta take this out because it's taking away from like the angst of the movie.
So you had script, or how improvised is it?
It's not improvised. It's very heavily scripted.
Even the lines.
Yeah, there's like a couple scenes in there.
Yeah,
because I've known the actors for a long time that. Yeah, they'll like improvise one random line, but a lot of people thought that the whole movie was improvised. I'm like, no, not at all. It's very heavily scripted. Yeah.
That's what I thought too.
There's maybe like 5% of improvisation in there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But it's like, no, it's super scripted. Yeah. Like every single thing.
Great.
And that was a thing too, where I'm like, you know what? If I'm going to make this a challenge, If I'm going to go back and make a movie, I'm going to like make a challenge and like prove to these people that I can do a movie. Because they were still turning us down and not giving us the money for it. Okay, yes. Sorry.
Yeah. So you were talking how you were pitching it.
Yeah, so going back to that, like we have the Phoebe and Kip characters. So Kip is the
and you had a script when you were pitching?
Oh, yeah, totally. Everything.
Yeah, yes. So who did you pitch it and what happened?
So with that, people were like, what is this, a million characters thing? You should just focus on a band.
What people? Production companies, channels?
Production companies, random producers, people that wanted to get into producing. They were trying to transition from another crew position to the next. Pretty much like, it was like 80 to 90% that would read this stuff.
Because this is the important question. Who do you pitch to get stuff made?
Exactly.
Dentists? Or what's that?
No. I mean, like I did the research where it was like indie production houses that were looking for projects. I mean, it takes a lot of research and it's boring. And again, to me, it's frustrating to even bring that up because what is the point? No one understands what we're trying to do. So it's like that where it's just like people were like, just, one house was like, just focus on one band and their groupies or band-aids, right? And I was like, that's almost famous. Why am I we're not doing that movie,
Yeah.
It's almost like the fact that these people are musicians, it's kind of a MacGuffin to try to tell this very optimistic story that you should not give up.
Yeah.
Don't give up no matter what. You never know. It's better to do than to not do, right? I almost quoted Yoda for a second, but I forgot that.
Sounded great.
But anyway, and one producer specifically was like, without spoiling the movie, two characters that I'm gonna end up spoiling it. Two characters that we really, really, really.
Let's not spoil it. If someone in Finland watches this,
If someone in Finland watches it,
yeah.
Well, certain things they didn't like the way it ended.
Yeah,
which is very open ended, and I was just like, well, it's a cold opening when you go into it. Why should we tie up these nice little bows at the end? And I'm like, no, you're literally having it's a very important day in these people's lives. They all affected each other somehow. And they may not entirely be in a different place than they were at the beginning, but they have gone through a journey. And now, I mean, in a different place emotionally, I would say, but now they're in these certain positions where they've met new people. And if it's almost like the Before trilogy feeling, the Linklater movies. Again, Linklater is a big influence on this stuff, which is like, if you're an optimist, you can kind of guide yourself to think that the next day of this music festival, because it's 3 days, we only focus on the first day.
Yeah.
So there's certain people that did not, I'm trying not to spoil that, so it's a little hard to talk about this, but it's just like, there's certain people that did not meet that you think should have met. And if you're an optimist, you're going to go, hey, there's 2 more days of the festival.
Yeah, I like that.
Right? So that's sort of the idea, you know?
Yeah, the ending definitely is not like a stop. It seems like a new beginning.
Right. So these people that would potentially have money did not understand that.
Yeah.
And they're like, you need to have these 2 characters meet. And we're like, if we did that, we wouldn't make this movie, because that's the point. That was actually one of the first things we thought of. We're like, these characters cannot meet. That is the point. And they were against it. So, you know, we had some script doctors come in and people giving us advice, and some of it that we followed, some of it that we didn't. And I think we should have followed it. But, you know, we're like, let's just crowdfund this thing. So we did a Seed and Spark.
No one bought it at all.
No.
Yes.
And
Seed and Spark.
We did a Seed and Spark campaign, and it was part of this hometown rally thing, I believe, that the Duplass brothers were running. And we tried.
I don't know about that. I know them, but I don't know the hometown.
Yeah, where it's like, if you, I think I can't remember right now. Because it's been so long since then, and you know, we had lockdown.
When was this?
This is like when we started. This was like 20. I have to think about 2017 is when we started writing it, and when we started, it was like fall of 2017 when we had the Seed and Spark crowdfunding campaign. 5
years ago.
Yeah, is that 5 years?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So we tried our best to knock on friends' doors and be like, hey, can you throw in $5? Can you throw in I hate doing that. And I've had to do crowdfunding before, because years ago, I got my car broken into with all my gear in it. Everything stolen, including footage, brand new laptop. I had to have a Seed and Spark campaign. I had to have a Seed and Spark campaign for post-production on another project. I tried to do it for that second feature that I never got a chance to make. No one donated to it. So it's like, I don't know people with a lot of money. I don't have people that like, you know, that are that enthusiastic even about the stuff that I do. Or I even have like close friends that have never seen anything I've ever made. Yeah. So it's like, they're not really interested in helping me out with this stuff. And I don't mean that in a negative sense. They're just being realistic. People are very lazy and picky about certain things. So I was like, I hate asking.
I know.
I hate asking for money. So we ended up raising like about $8,000.
That's pretty good.
Pretty good. And I ended up throwing in money myself. And then like, I can't remember what the final budget of I'll Be Around was, but you know, we did that Seed and Spark campaign, and it ended like in October of 2017.
Yeah.
We didn't start shooting till very end of August, or maybe right at the beginning of September of 2018.
Yes.
And before we started shooting I'll Be Around, because I was a little rusty, I had this idea years ago for this movie, and I wrote this after I wrote the pilot episode of Oblivion. I followed these 2 early 20-year-old characters, 2 guys. They're best friends. You don't know why they're best friends, but they're obsessed with like 60s soul, mod music, Northern soul, garage rock, some psychedelic, whatever. They're music obsessives, and they're also obsessed with sex. One of them is very experienced, the other one isn't. And I was like, this would be cool. And I kind of want to do it as a tribute to the French New Wave films that I grew up on.
Yeah.
Truffaut and Godard specifically. And I was like, and I want to shoot it in real time. I want to show their friendship over the span of 5 years, how it falls apart. Because in your early 20s to your mid 20s, that's a very interesting transition period, you know? And some of these people that you may have even known since your childhood, they're probably not going to be friends with you anymore the older you get. So I wanted to show that dynamic. I didn't end up doing it. And around this time when I was starting to cast for I'll Be Around, I met these two young boys separately. We worked at the same place, but they worked there separately. And I was like, oh my God, I think these guys, if they can act, I think they could play these two characters. So lo and behold, at the start of 2018, I ended up recutting, and I've been doing this for years, kept fine tuning it and showing people the movie and getting negative feedback and still showing people and getting positive feedback. I ended up cutting By the Wayside, the feature that was way too long, that was inspired by Cassavetes, into a 70-minute long feature.
Yeah.
70 minutes and a little bit of change. I love that version. I am so happy with it. I got a lot of help from one of my regular actors, Brittany Sampson. She's amazing. We have very different tastes, and she has a very more main pop culture kind of, that's the direction that she sways in, right? So she can come in from an outsider's POV, someone that doesn't really watch experimental films or art house films, and help me make this palatable for both sides, right?
Yeah.
So with her help, I fine-tuned Wayside, and I had a screening of it at the Echo Park Film Center. And when I watched it, I was like, this is the movie that I wanted to make back then. Very happy with it. But I ended up also screening a teaser for this project that I was talking about the kids aging in real time, called Boys About Town. And I did a teaser, which is the very first thing I wrote for it, with this character talking into the camera about his sexual problems. He's 20 years old. And after giving this like 2-minute long monologue, the camera flips and you see that he's actually talking to this kid who's not paying attention to him.
Yeah,
because
that's cool.
He was talking about his lack of sexual experience, and this other kid is way too cool for that. So he pelts him with a cigarette right in the face. That got a good response. 2 months later, I started shooting the first segment of Boys About Town. And that was horrible. And I'm glad that I did that first, because I was so rusty that we messed up every single thing that could happen. We reshot that first segment, which is 20 pages, about like 4 times. And I'm glad I did that, because I was not ready to do I'll Be Around. I was so rusty doing no budget productions.
Did you release it? Boys About Town.
Since it's 5 years long, we're on the 4.5 year shooting it.
Oh yes, so you're really doing it like that.
So still doing it like that. That's good. So I'm close to wrapping it up, and it turned out, because of all the stuff that I've shot, and I like I said, we have I'll Be Around split into 2 features. I like that 70-minute something mark for my stuff specifically. So I basically, Boys About Town has turned into a trilogy. So 3 different 70-minute long features. But it's really cool because you see these kids at the beginning, and they do have the baby fat,
Yeah.
And as the story progresses, their voices do get deeper, and they start losing that fat. They start getting gray hair, and it's been really fun to show that. And they're not their whole cast of friends is also aging, so it's been really cool. That, since I was working on that, it allowed me to prepare for I'll Be Around, and I was still to the very last minute trying to find the right cast, because you're doing a no budget production. You can't like get all these SAG actors. You can't get like this crazy amazing talent. You can only get the people that are down to do it, which is really fun. It's cool. And and sometimes you meet people that are just straight up characters, where you're like, you don't really have to act. If you can be comfortable in front of the camera, just memorize this, say it your own way.
I know.
That's why some stuff does seem like it's improvised, because I have them saying it their own way, but it's actually scripted. And
everything seems really real in that film.
That's cool. That's good. Yeah. And I do have and there is a very stylized form of acting in the stuff that I've worked on. You can kind of if you watch a lot of my stuff, I think you can see that it feels like one of my movies. I'm saying this as a person that's watched my stuff a million times, and then I go back to it years later, and I'm like, oh man, I can totally see that this is the style that I unintentionally have been harboring. Is really weird. So
with the Seed and Spark, did you promise them any ownership, or was it just support?
Just support. I did that with I try to do that with Scenes from Oblivion, the first stuff, but it's just we don't make a penny off of this, and people know that. And a lot of people that The other thing that I do with I don't know if a lot of filmmakers do this. There's some people that I admire that do this, where they don't give the talent the entire script. They only give them their scenes.
Okay.
And then people ask me questions. Well, what's the relationship to this person? I'm like, yeah, I'll answer this for you, but I want you to build your character. Don't be asking me what your character ate for breakfast 3 days ago. Like, oh, that's your job if you want to know that. So they have no idea what they're actually getting involved in. And to me, that's really fun because I'm a bit of a prankster. I relate a lot to the Rory character in the movie. He's the one that switches the weed cookies out.
Yes.
I like screening a movie is one of my or premiering a movie with the cast is one of my most favorite things because they have no idea
what
the movie is. And they're like, what the hell is this? And they see that they're like part of this big old
universe.
Yeah, this big old universe. And some of them they're like, oh, this is gonna be like a 80-minute comedy. Like, because their character scenes are all funny. They have no idea that there's like this whole angsty, like very like heavy aspect to it as well, or existential aspect to it as well.
I'm gonna go back because this is something that I need to work on quite a lot. So with the Seed and Spark, are you promising people anything? Are you just how do you approach people?
For that, we had perks which was like, since I have very little help with this stuff, it's really difficult for me to follow up on this. But we had stuff where like, for $1, you get a glimpse into our production diary.
Yeah.
Like people shooting on set, you can see behind the scenes footage, or, one of them was like Dan would write a song for a person.
Okay. That's nice.
Using like keywords and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't remember if he ended up doing that, but anyway, we had like different perks like that. Or, if you donate $100, you'll be listed as a producer at the end credits or whatever.
But is it basically that you're just asking, please help us? We want to do it for fun. Yeah. Support arts.
Yeah. Support art, I mean, especially the theme of that story. It is about struggling artists and people that just want to create, and they have their hands bound, so, you just make these perk tiers.
I know, because I know how hard it is to make money with an indie film.
Yeah.
And I want to be honest with people who might support it. Since I've seen the film, you're an excellent filmmaker. And I think this could become, someone could pay you about this for doing these films. Like, how do you see the future? You're releasing this now. And what do you want to, are you going to sell? What do you want from the future as a filmmaker?
To get our dream projects financed, and that's the thing too. It's just like, I don't need $1 gazillion to make this stuff. We can pull this off very cheaply made. You can do it with 6 figures, it just all depends. And it's like, we basically, like Dan and I have made every project that we've made, we've wanted to work on.
Yeah.
Right. But we haven't made something that we would love to work on. We really want to make, and I'll be around. Like, I really had to make that, but it's like, if I had the option to make that or this dream project, I'm gonna go for the dream project.
What's the dream project?
We have there's a million of them. We spent a long time writing a lot of these scripts. The one that we were writing before I'll Be Around, we were lucky enough to get chosen by the American Zoetrope screenplay competition. I think it was like 2020.
Yeah.
It was judged by Francis Coppola, and I think we were like the second runner-up for that. And that one's called So Goes the Night, and it's kind of like a revisionist. It's like a neo-detective story. It's really philosophical.
Yeah.
It still feels like one of our projects, definitely. But it's like, I would never make that movie DIY because I would ruin it. It would not be anywhere near as good as it could be if we had a budget. So it's like, I choose to not make that, to not make it. That's like a project that I would rather not make than make and destroy it.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't live with myself if I did that,
So are you looking for financing for that?
That's a difficult project because it is a drama. It's not a genre picture. I don't have any real monetary success. So who the hell is going to want to pay for that thing? So we,
I think you have a strong voice in your filmmaking that I can see someone falling in love with that.
You got to find that person to fall in love with the voice. What are the chances? Like playing the lottery, right? But it's like, we did. So you've seen I'll Be Around, and I do have a shared universe. And in Oblivion, we had this kind of like a subplot going on about this. The town that Oblivion takes place in is called Hohenstall, right? And there's a killer. It's been, this slasher that's been murdering people, and the media has dubbed that person the Hohenstall Slayer. And I'll Be Around, one of the characters is obsessed with the whole install Slayer, and he talks about it.
Oh, cool.
So when we had that, we actually had a bunch of people that went, because we have like, scary scenes. This Rory character is a prankster. I think I mentioned that earlier, and he's pulling a prank on someone.
Yes.
Making them think that they're about to get killed by this killer. That's just who he is. He's getting a kick out of it. So those scenes were done in a certain manner. And then I had a bunch of people going, you guys should actually make a real horror movie. And I do love the horror movies that I grew up on, but I'm not like, I wouldn't call myself a horror fanatic because they're really disappointing to me. They never meet they never hit the peak of the ones that I love, that I grew up on.
Which were those?
Like Chainsaw Massacre, the original Night of the Living Dead. I can go on and on and on.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm like, I'm not gonna make a horror movie because I'd hate my own horror movies, so I don't want to do it. But we started getting ideas, Dan and I.
Yeah.
And I was like, we should make the whole install Slayer movie, and if we're gonna do it, if we're gonna do a slasher movie, it's not gonna be 5 teenagers getting stalked by a killer. And I'm like, no, we're gonna make something that's very much like us, that we would want to watch. And if other people like it, cool. But I think this has a lot of potential. So we wrote that script and we did several rewrites of it, and we've submitted it here and there. And we've gotten just screenplay competitions, and we've gotten a lot of great feedback. So that right now is the project that I would want to try to push to get financed, because it is a genre picture. There is a built-in audience, that demographic that we talked about in the EPK.
Yeah.
And it is set in our movie universe, but it's not alienating to people that have no idea about any of the other stuff that we've worked on.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty proud of that script, and I think it'd be a lot of fun if we got that made. So that right now is what I'm hoping that we can get people interested in. I haven't really been pushing it right now because I'm kind of spread thin with working on these other things at the moment. Which one of the other things that I'm working on at the moment is going to be done very similar to By the Wayside. It's a thriller. It's not a comedy. It's a thriller, very heavily plotted, but I want the talent to improvise their dialogue. They'll have some suggestions.
Yeah.
I want them to improvise it, and we're not going to tell them when things go down.
That's great.
So
Yeah.
I want to have that, and I want to have this script that we're really proud of as examples of what we can do to try to obtain the interest
Yeah.
in the whole install Slayer script.
I like those. I like those ideas.
So
a lot.
hopefully if
Yeah.
something comes through with that, then if we gain any sort of tiny bit of recognition for that, hopefully we can try to get the money for our dream projects that mean like the world to us,
And how you're making all this happen by yourself? Do you work somewhere or?
Well, I work for the Cinematech, the American Cinematech, but I used to when I was
Can you tell about that?
Nonprofit repertory theaters all across Los Angeles. The Aero Theater in Santa Monica, the Los Feliz 3, the main theater at the Los Feliz 3. It's basically 2 businesses in one building. So it's Vintage Cinemas and then American Cinematech. And we also had the Egyptian Theater in Hollywood.
I think we had our showing. I don't know if it was Vista or Los Feliz 3.
Was it recently?
4 years ago.
4 years ago.
Which one is in the corner?
Oh, in the corner, that's the Vista. That's owned by Vintage Cinemas.
No, we were in the other one. We were in your cinema.
The one that's on Vermont Avenue, just like it looks very boutique.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that would be the LF3.
There's like the cafes and all that next to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had our film is called Someone Somewhere.
Someone Somewhere?
Yeah, so we found that location, the price was good, and we had our premiere.
Nice.
Then we went to the Thai place next to it.
Oh, okay.
Have you been
the
there?
one like kind of kitty corner to it?
Yes, in the strip mall, Pad Thai.
Yes.
Because they have a karaoke.
I haven't been there since before lockdown, but yes, that's a good spot to go to.
I've been there after Rainbow, I've been there the most.
Oh, wow, really?
Because we used to have all the rap parties there.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. I live at the Los Feliz 3 theater. So
at the theater.
I'm there like 6 days out of the week. So.
Oh, yes. So we had really good experience there.
Yeah.
So sorry, so Cinematech has these theaters in LA.
Yeah, and we have like special screenings with celebrity guests, and we had this amazing run recently of 70 millimeter films, which included Robert Altman's Shortcuts, another influence on I'll Be Around, and Vertigo. I forget the few others that we screened. Lawrence of Arabia, that's a staple.
Yeah.
So a lot of fun. But when I was working on I'll Be Around, I was a bartender and eventually bar manager. So you can imagine working a full shift as a bartender and getting off at 4 a.m, only to go be on set at 7 a.m.
Yeah.
So very taxing, you know. It takes a very. I think it takes. I get criticized by friends, like just giving me crap that I don't sleep much, but it's like I don't really need it. It's in my genes.
Yeah.
My brothers are that way. My dad was that way, and I think it definitely requires a certain type of person to pull off DIY productions where you're wearing many hats, not eating much, not sleeping much, and still being able to delegate to people what you want. You know. It sucks, but it does take a certain personality type and energy type to be able to do that.
I agree.
So,
are you still the bar manager? Or what do you do there?
hell no.
What do you do?
Oh well, no. Now, yeah. Just like I'm a coordinator for the Cinematech, so I'm out of that stuff. I was literally having another breakdown before lockdown.
Yeah,
and I was definitely considering taking a break because I was losing my mind. I can't be a part of anything that has not that this job had that. That's why I was a bartender. But I can't have a lot of restrictions.
Yeah.
I'm trying to live my day-to-day life. I need a lot of freedom. Not in a rebellious sense or just being lazy. It's just like, no, I need to be able to like be me and do what I need to be doing in order for me to have a certain peace of mind.
Yeah.
So, after a while dealing with people that are just plastered all the time and angry all the time while they're drinking, and then you're dealing with your own crap. You're like, I have no time to deal with your stupid anger issues that you're taking out on me when I'm the one that's feeding you.
Why are they angry?
Ask those people. I don't know why they try to start bar fights with other people. I'm like, what is going on? People yelling at you and consistently doing this when you're really busy.
Yeah,
trying to get your. You're like,
I know. I have worked in restaurants,
exactly,
but in the food.
So have I. I mean, and I'll be around. We have the character Joni.
Yeah,
she her boss won't let her go. You know, she's on a really great bill that night on the festival. She needs to play with her band, and her boss is like, if you leave, I'm going to fire you. And she's like, this isn't even my shift.
Yeah,
I was just filling in for a couple hours, and this guy's being a dick. Her boss, and I'm jumping around all over the place, but her boss is played by one of my favorite punk rock guitarists of all time, Frank Agnew, who was in a band in the Adolescents, and he's played in various outfits throughout the years. But he's been in several of my stuff. I met him on the set of Oblivion because I started getting a lot of punk rock icons to play some of the fill-in characters on the show.
Yeah.
So to me, I was like, oh, they're punk rockers. They're going to be cool being on this DIY thing and not getting paid. And they totally were. They were like, I just want to do something. This is really cool. So we became really good friends. So Frank, as I said, I tell people, come up with your own background on the characters. I'll tell you how they're related, but you come up with your own background. Frank, who plays the boss that won't let Joni leave her dining position to go play this really great slot at this festival that can gain her a lot of recognition, won't let her leave because he himself is a failed musician.
Yeah.
So he's holding her back. That was a background that he came up with. And I was like, that is perfect.
That's tough.
And what's it called? And the reason Joni doesn't quit is because she can't afford to quit. She can't afford to lose that job.
I know.
So it's like a lot of people go, just like, quit that thing. I'm like, then what are you going to do? Then you're going to be totally screwed. She's already at the beginning of the movie complaining that she can't even meet her bills.
Yeah.
You know, and she's like, she might have to move into her lockout space, her rehearsal space that doesn't have a shower, you know.
Yeah.
I know so many people that do that stuff, you know.
So that's, we had a lockout actually for a few months.
Over
it was
here?
really, in Hollywood. It was great to have like real drums.
I know,
that's it's fun.
That's the best.
But now I only have electric drums at home. That's something.
Do you play those?
For fun, yeah. I can play guitar, but the drums, I'm just a beginner.
Yeah.
It's very fun. But yes, I play them.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I actually have two topics that I would like to go before we need to go. That I like to talk about before we need to go. So music. Well, you said that there's just Mike, but the music, the whole band thing. Like, why did you stop? Like, if you're good enough to be a lead singer, why did you stop?
Well, like I said, it's like it's another job, you know.
Yeah.
And if I'm like the lead songwriter and I'm like basically the leader of the band, like I don't want to do that anymore. It's too time consuming, especially if I'm going back and editing Oblivion episodes that I never finished, or if I'm working on 3 simultaneous features, or if I'm working on Boys About Town, or if I'm working like 40 hours a week. Like I'm not, you know, I still want to hang out with my friends. I'm still like, I'm a huge cinephile. Like watching movies to me.
So
like,
you love filmmaking?
I love filmmaking to a certain extent because I don't have the resources for it. But I always say this: I'm never happier than when I'm on set. And my favorite part about filmmaking is editing. That's when you really can manipulate things and hopefully salvage footage that you didn't shoot that well. You know,
I definitely don't love editing.
oh, you don't?
Yeah,
It's my favorite. And sometimes I avoid it
Yeah.
forever because I know when I get into it, it's going to be really hard to pull me out of it. I'm just there. And then also, you know, when, you know, you don't have access to, clearing music, certain music.
Yes.
I'll just have my guitar when I'm editing and I'll start just strumming along and trying to get a rhythm, sort of pace to the scenes. And then I'll start actually writing part of a score or an original song, which I had to do for I'll Be Around because there are, you know, a lot of musicians in that movie or bands. It's about bands. That process is my favorite. But what was I saying? Going back to like the whole process of filmmaking and doing all these things, it's just like you're going to spread yourself very thin if you are also trying to have a live musical outfit.
I get it.
know?
Like
And
you can do. I have need to make some sacrifices too.
Yeah.
Since I'm pursuing acting and doing films,
and it's a lot of fun. And even when I was recording this Just Mike stuff, like I think it was like a couple weeks ago, I reached out to a bunch of friends and be like, "Hey, do you guys want to like?" And even though I say this, I don't want to play live again. I was like, "Do you guys want to do just one show?"
You should do,
because it'd be fun.
It's fun,
and it's super fun. The very last time I played live was during the making of I'll Be Around, and that was a blast. That was the most fun I've had playing a show in ages. And there weren't a lot of people there, but I had so much fun, and I think the rest of the band did. And it's like, again, it's like it's a nice way to relieve stress. You know?
I know. I get to play covers a couple of times a year.
Yeah.
So and we play some rock. So it's
well,
fun.
when's the last time you played live?
I think it was Labor Day last year. No, actually, I played live. I played for Midsummer's party in the Finnish community center.
Oh, nice.
A Finnish center.
Yeah.
So there was a singer, and we were playing a couple of oldies Finnish songs. So in Midsummer's.
That's awesome. That's
but
cool.
with an amp and electric guitar, Labor Day last.
I mean, I'm a fan of this director, but I'll probably butcher his name. I'm sure you're familiar with Aki Kaurismäki.
Yeah.
Okay, I was gonna say that because he's a filmmaker that I love, and then you have stuff like Leningrad Cowboys, where he's mixing that very deadpan flavor of his from his like dramatic features or comedic features.
Yes.
With musicians traveling.
Yeah, and rock musicians.
Yeah,
and
so
all
what's your opinion on his stuff?
I love it. He has he's like you, that he has created his own style, which is really strong.
Well, which is your favorite feature of his?
Well, I have a scene that comes to my mind that I love.
Uh-huh.
I think it's from Rosso. There's an Italian hitman, and there's a Finnish guy, and there's this really famous Finnish song that is like a big thing there. So he starts singing the original Italian song, and then the other guy starts singing the Finnish song, Olen suomalainen, because it's an Italian cover.
Right.
So they have shared this moment, even though they don't share language. They sing this. They are driving the car and they sing this song that we all know in two languages at the same time.
The universal language of music.
Yes. So that's my favorite scene.
What flick is that? Because it sounds really familiar and I can't place it right now.
I think it's called Rosso.
Rosso?
Like the Italian word for red. Maybe?
Yeah.
Yes. So it's an old song. So it's an old film.
Yeah.
So that's my favorite. I don't know what to say. What's my favorite film of his? But that's the favorite scene.
That like that one that stands out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's cool. And every time, actually, often when I meet Italian people, I ask, do they know this song? And they know it because it's really popular. So I get to sing a part of that song with an Italian person.
That's cool.
I've done it in Santa Monica once.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great to be able to reenact that.
Yes. So, well, that's cool. You know him. And I like how he trapezes, how he balances when is it comical and when is it really serious. Because many of his topics are so serious and dramatic, but there's a certain comedic undertone.
The humor is amazing because it's so dry that it takes you a few seconds after the delivery to realize how funny that was.
That's true.
And he's very sparse in his dialogue. I mean, I'm a big Bresson fan, for example, and like I would one day like to do, again, like I don't think it's in my personality, but I would like to do a movie that's not so dialogue heavy as you saw it All Be Around. It's a lot of talk. Yes. And if you're not a person into people just talking, you're not going to really enjoy that movie. But I would like to do something that's much more minimal, because he does so much with one line of dialogue, and then it's like silence, and then the other character talks.
Yeah.
It lets you, marinate with what they said a bit, and it covers so much ground just a simple use of words, you know. I don't know if I have it in me.
No, that's really interesting to hear because the Finnish culture is very non-talkative.
So okay.
So it definitely tells about Finnish culture, but it's great to hear how you relate to it, even though you're an American.
I love that. I mean, it's also like I am Cuban and we're very loud. We talk a lot.
Yeah,
you know, we speak with our hands. We're very colorful, melodramatic, over the top people. So that stuff is definitely in my movies. But I would.
Are you from? Sorry.
Well, I mean, I was born here. I'm like the first one in my entire family to be born here. But I didn't learn how to speak English till I was like 4 or 5. Learned through television. Like my first preschool and kindergarten, it was like bilingual.
Yeah,
and
nice.
that helped out. I think by first grade, I was already speaking English, something like that.
I lived 4 years in Miami, so I got exposed to Cubans a lot.
Yeah.
So are you from Miami, LA? Where are you from?
I'm from Orange County, but I lived twice in Miami when I was a wee lad.
Wee lad, nice. Yeah, many of our teachers and classmates half Cuban or Cuban.
Would they yell at you a lot? Would they flip out if you guys did something wrong?
No, they were loud, but I don't think they were angry. No.
Okay. That's just how people are like, yo, stop yelling at me. I'm like, that's how I talk.
Yeah, I loved Miami. I lived there for 4 years.
That's wild.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So I guess the last thing that I would like to ask, if someone who's not in LA yet and wants to come here to pursue whatever dreams they have.
Run away. I'll do it.
Because you've been here for what? You were born in Orange County.
Yeah. I've been here just like, I think I moved up here like in 2002 from Orange County.
Yeah.
I was like living out of my car and like, I grew up in Santa Ana. So like I used to have band practice back then in Ventura County, like in Camarillo, which is quite a drive, so I would be working at I was working at a coffee bean at the time. So I'd put in my hours there and then like drive all the way up to Camarillo and stay at our drummer's place for like 2 or 3 days of just band practicing and bonding and hanging out and drive back down and do that over and over. But I was like, for the most part, once I came up to LA, I was just living in my car. So I did every possible struggle you could have. I'm using bunny ears right now.
Yeah.
Struggle you could have to try to obtain some sort of position in the entertainment industry. And then that sort of panned out for a minute. But as with everything, all good things come to an end.
Yeah. So if someone's not here yet, do you have any other tips then? Run away.
What are they coming out here for? That's what's over here.
Well, I was going to ask acting, but since you also have a connection to the rock world, I don't know if you want to talk about music or acting.
I don't know. Over here is, especially post lockdown. Actually, was pretty much over Los Angeles. Right before lockdown, I was part of that breakdown that I was having as a bartender, where I'm just sick of everything right now. But everything's changed in the city, and now I feel like there's consistently, this is post lockdown, consistently some music event going on in genres that I lean more towards, which before it was kind of a dying thing. Which are just like rock in general.
Yeah.
Like I'm talking about just using that as an umbrella term, covering every possible subgenre.
Yeah.
Certain bars that you would walk into would only be catering to a certain crowd, be more like top 40. But now it's like, oh man, I'm hearing this in the real, like I call it the real world. It's not just in my bedroom or in my car or whatever on my headphones when I'm walking down the street. I'm hearing this stuff out in public. So things have changed, but it's like it's there was this whole subplot, and I'll be around again. The movie's already very lengthy as is, but this was taken out of the original script, where it's just like people were not, all these corporations were coming in, and it was again, when you're trying to book a show, they're like, how many followers you got? How many people can you bring? I mean, it is a business. I can't blame them for being this way. They want to make sure that if they're booking you, that you're not playing for your 2 friends and your Uncle Pete, They want you to make sure you have a bunch of people there that are buying drinks that, they got to make money, right? But the thing is that the city's changed so much that, not going to mention any corporate names, but they've taken over a large chunk of the city where now almost no one can play. Doesn't even matter if you have like whatever 10,000 followers. Sure, I'm like lowballing it, but anyway, anything like that, they're like you need to be like a very popular artist or being pushed by some certain label. But most of the bookers that I sort of knew, they've left the city. They've all retired. So it's like, it's really hard to play a show in Los Angeles unless you're doing one of the very, very underground places. But those places, again, you still need to know the people that would be cool with you playing there. And it still comes down to networking, which I'm really terrible at. But I'm just saying that. So if you're coming out here as a musician, just be careful and just know that you're most likely going to be playing like a house party, if you can find one, opposed to one of the lucrative venues that used to embrace new artists with open arms.
But you said that something positive had happened, that you start to hear in rock music.
Positive in the sense that like there are these makeshift places that have popped up, and it's like there's always something going on now in general. Like every night of the week, I'm like, oh my God, there's this band that I can see, there's this, you know, so it's been pretty cool.
Yeah.
And some, I'm not bashing every single venue. There are some that still will accept a nobody artist, but you still have to kind of build up a name for yourself.
Yeah. But I guess this is still the place.
This is still a place. And a lot of people that were aspiring to be actors during lockdown moved away. They have not returned.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
So, but in a sense, I mean, like I just say, you may not be getting paid a ton of money to be an actor out here on productions, especially now because you can shoot a feature on an iPhone. And I just say, just do it. You know, it's just like, even if you're not getting paid, just go through the experience, build up a res, build up a tolerance, you know. Brittany Sampson, who I talked about earlier, who helped me edit down By the Wayside. She always talks about like the first time that we met, when she came to audition for Jerry Powell, my first flick, when I was talking about earlier. And I sought her out. I was going through like backstage, and I saw that she's like open to appearing in no budget productions. And I had a feeling after I watched her reel, I'm like, she's going to get this part. She's going to play Jerry's girlfriend, Donna.
Yeah.
There's just something that I just knew. And that was like a little bit difficult role to cast. And she brings this up because I made her wait in the car for like 30 or 40 minutes post the time she had to be there. And it was like a little mean, but at the same time, I'm like, I want to see what sort of tolerance she has to be on a no budget set where you're not being catered to. And I'm like, and I'm not kidding. I have to think about this. With the exception of my last feature, like a Dirty French Novel, my last completed feature, there's always been one person on set that feels so entitled that is just an asshole. Always. And it has to be the one person that's ruining everybody else's parade, you know? That one person that's like, me, I'm the talent. This thing would fall apart without me, and feed me and this and that. I'm like, you've been fed. He's like, you called out a meal. I'm like, that's a pretty big meal. I need this and this and that. Everyone. Not everyone, every project, there's been that person. And you're like, so you kind of, part of the audition process for my crap, it's like, can you stand the conditions? Yeah. You're going to be cool with that. You're not going to be consistently fluffed before a screening, you know, or a shooting or whatever. And ironically, like, I think it was the first day that Brittany had shot with us. I'm pretty sure, and I've talked about this story a million times, but when we were shooting in Echo Park, which, you know, it's cleaned up a bit since then. It still can be dangerous. When I was a kid and my parents would drive up from Orange County, you know, and we go to like some Cuban bakery out here or whatever, we'd always pass by Echo Park Boulevard or the exit or whatever, Echo Park Avenue, whatever it's called. We'd pass it and I would get so scared as a kid because I knew from news that Echo Park was very dangerous. Wow. And you had Allison Anders, Mi Vida Loca as well, which focuses.
Sorry, I don't know what that is.
That's the movie that Allison Anders made that focuses on all the gangs in the early 90s in
What
Echo
is it called?
Park. Mi Vida Loca.
Okay.
My Crazy Life, which there's a popular song that repeats those words that I'm not going to mention. I'm not going to go too far into right now. But anyway, so I was terrified of that place. And I already lost my train of thought. But like, what I think I was trying to say is like...
your first day of shooting.
First day of shooting, we were shooting in Echo Park. And, you know, like I was already living there, I think. No, I wasn't living there just yet. But we're there. And while we're shooting, we don't get held up, but we get a gun pointed at us. This guy, it looked like a gang initiation. And this guy thinks that the characters are yelling at him, and they're not characters because our DP, Jessica, did not shoot Jerry Powell. This is Amberly Bankoff. She goes by Ammo. Good friend of mine, who I was in a band with. And she was originally in Dignitary. But She's shorter. She wears all black. We had the camera on sticks. She has like a tarp over her head. So
Yeah.
see the shot. It's nighttime. It's like 9, 10 p.m. And it's a scene where Jerry, the main character, he's speaking directly to camera. But since you can't see her, you don't know who he's talking to. And we're off to the side, obviously. It's a really small crew. It's like 5 people. And Brittany's character, Donna, yells out, "Street dogs!" Like the hot dogs that the vendors sell on the street.
Yeah.
Right? But her character sees that and then pulls Jerry off to the side. We think that those people thought that she was probably yelling out "street thugs."
Yeah. Yeah.
And Jerry's talking and he's wearing like a Hawaiian shirt. And then we hear, can I cuss on here?
Yeah. Yeah.
This guy's like, "The fuck you say, Hawaiian boy?" And we're like, and I kind of look and I don't know where that came from. "Fuck you say." And then Joe, who never gets out of character, he plays Rex Dollars in I'll Be Around. He's the guy that's like, hooks up with he's like the rock star that hooks up with all the girls, but he comes too fast. He has that problem.
Yeah.
He has a premature ejaculation problem. So Joe never gets out of character ever. When he slips in, that's who he is.
Yeah.
You know, he slips out and he goes, shit. I think that guy's pointing a gun at us. And I'm like, what? And then Brittany starts cowering as well, like moving backwards. And I'm going like, what's happening here? And we look and we see there's this dude that has like this shiny metallic thing resting on the top of the car. So cutting that story short, Brittany still stuck around after that. Our scriptie, she gave me those notes, and then there was a note within the notes that said, "Hey, I just got to tell you, you guys are very brave, but I don't think I can be a part of this production any longer."
What happened after that? Like in that moment?
In that moment, this guy directly went right up to Joe with the gun behind his back.
Yeah.
Still kind of like antagonizing him. And I think it looked like a gang initiation, because when he was at that car, there was a couple of like homies hanging out and just staring at us, like in place.
Yeah.
With their hands and arms in front of them, you know? And he's like, "We're shooting a movie. Like Joe's just like, "We're shooting," and I couldn't say anything. And Ammo cut the camera. I wish he would have still kept running, or at least leaving it, so we can capture all this the dialogue that these people had between each other. And the guy eventually like realizes that Joe's not going to try to antagonize him, and he goes, he looks around to the left or the right, and he goes, "Okay," and he just walks back. The funny thing is that this guy had a cast. So he was like going, like walking like this. He looked like, like he was walking up to us with his gun. So in retrospect, it was really funny. But at the time, we're like, oh my God, the first day of shooting, where it's going to be I was like, Joe's dead. Like in my head, I was like, he's going to get shot right now.
Yeah.
Like my friend is going to die right now. Really terrifying moment. But like I said, Brittany's still stuck around. So, you know, doing that as part of the audition process where you're having someone wait in the car before they come and read their lines.
Yeah.
It ended up working out in the long run. And she still brings it up. She's like, "You were just testing my tolerance." And
wow.
I was like, well.
So that's indie filmmaking.
That's indie filmmaking.
Where if people want to see your films, where can they see them?
All my stuff is on Jerry by the Wayside. I'll Be Around is on Amazon and Tubi. Just type any of that stuff on Google. You'll be able to find it. Definitely on Vimeo. And like a Dirty French Novel, it's supposed to be getting released by Dark. It's supposed to have a physical Blu-ray copy, I think maybe by September. And Troma is co-releasing it on their app, their streaming service, which is really cool. We did a total like very, very campy exploitation film inspired pulpy noir during lockdown. Jessica shot that.
Can you tell the name again?
Like a Dirty French Novel.
Nice.
Which is taken from Velvet Underground lyrics. And all my stuff has at least a Lou Reed or a Velvet Underground reference. So that's the most direct reference that we can possibly have. But that one says it's so campy. Troma really dug it. So they're going to be putting that on their streaming service. And then I'm not sure yet where the other distributor is going to be chucking that on, but you'll be able to look it up in, I think, at the end of August or early September.
Nice. Well, this was great. Thank you, Mike.
Thanks for having me.